I mean, it's not a democracy. It's an apartheid state. It is committing a genocide in Gaza. And the argument that it is a strategic asset to the United States is not a serious argument. It's an albatross around their neck.
John Mearsheimer recently slammed the U.S. relationship with Israel, calling Israel an albatross around the neck of the United States. And in this clip, he describes how that relationship impacts more than just Gaza. It spills into domestic politics, influences U.S. foreign policy in general, and why that's a bad thing if your real mentality is America first. So let's get his take on this. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel.
Do you believe that Netanyahu is planning another invasion of Iran?
I think they have contingency plans. And I think when the time comes, when they think the time is right, they will probably attack Iran. The fact is, we don't have IAEA inspectors in Iran, and the Iranians have promised they're going to start up their enrichment program. That means that the Israelis are going to make the argument in the not too distant future that Iran is back to building a bomb, and something has to be done about that. And that, in all likelihood, will lead the Israelis to attack Iran. The only counter argument, if I have to argue against myself on this one, is that if you look at what happened in the 12-day war, the Israelis did not do well against the Iranians.
Right.
The Iranians have lots of ballistic missiles. The Israelis have a limited ability to find and hit the nuclear capabilities on the Iranian side. And it's not clear that Israel has a vested interest, given the military balance, of striking against Iran, because again, Iran has a second strike capability. It's commonplace in the West to portray the Israelis and the Americans as having won this great victory in the 12-day war, but that's simply not true. And the end result is, I think the Israelis may be reluctant to strike at Iran again. But nevertheless, if I had to bet, I'd bet that they'll go after the Iranians. And
yeah, I mean, I generally agree. A lot to tackle there. First of all, I agree with him. This wasn't a stunning victory against Iran. Iran maintained their regime. They no longer have an inspections regime. And by the way, if America first foreign policy held, they probably would have an inspection regime. Instead, the Trump administration shelved those plans for normalizing relations with Iran for the sake of bombing Iran with the Israelis. So yeah, it's only a matter of time before they ramp up the propaganda campaign again and say, hey, they're days, weeks, seconds away from acquiring a nuke. And they will do that. And the fact that there isn't any IAEA inspectors anymore makes me think that they might be more persuasive with that propaganda this time, not being able to have as much intelligence that says one way or the other, not that they actually cared about that, because even Tulsi Gabbard was willing to twist that intelligence on the eve of the U.S. bombing campaign to say, after denying they had even restarted their program, to saying, hey, we got intelligence that they're weeks away. So I agree with Mearsheimer. We haven't heard the end of this one. This has been Netanyahu's dream since I was a little kid, to regime change Iran for good.
Friend and colleague, Professor Ted Postal of MIT, says they already do have a nuclear weapon.
Well, I'm not sure that Ted says that they already have a nuclear weapon. I think Ted makes the argument that they can easily develop a nuclear weapon in a way that makes it very hard for the United States and for Israel to discover where that weapon is being made. I think Ted's argument is that they have enough enriched uranium up to 60%. And if you look at what it takes to go from 60% to 90%, it's, a hop, skip, and a jump, and they can do it in a laboratory or in some facility, which is very hard for the Israelis or for the Americans to see.
Yeah, I mean, this is true, but at some point you have to, even after enriching the uranium, you have to build it into a bomb and attach it to a ballistic missile, a delivery system. And that process, after even you've enriched the uranium, could take as much as, 10 months to 14 months. I've seen various estimates on this. So it's unclear about how fast they could do this. But what I do know is if I'm an Iranian nationalist, I want to fast track a nuke. Regardless of the fatwa that the Ayatollah put out against nuclear weapons, I would want to fast track a nuke. Why? Because the U.S. won't mess with Iran if they fast track a nuke, just like they don't mess with North Korea after it acquired nuclear weapons. This is the ultimate deterrent in the world. And that's why the U.S., acts as if it doesn't want any other country acquiring nukes except for Israel, right? Because Israel has a secret nuclear weapons program that it stole from technology from the United States in the 60s. It was called the Domina Project. JFK tried to put an end to that, and guess what? An end was put to him.
I have to play a clip from your favorite senior senator from South Carolina last night before a group of Republicans in South Carolina, talking about the relationship of the United States to Israel. You tell me how many falsehoods are in this statement. Chris, cut number 14.
But tonight, it's late at night, Israel is in a fight for their lives. Our friends in Israel are surrounded by people who would kill them all if they could. I am tired of the word genocide. Let me tell you about genocide. If Israel wanted to commit genocide, they could. They have the capability to do that. They choose not to.
How can you get away with saying this? They have chosen to do that. They're not surrounded by people that want to attack them because they know that the reprisal from the United States and Israel combined would mean regime change. That's exactly why Israel is not generally attacked by their neighbors, mostly haven't been since 1973. There are terrorist attacks for sure, but in terms of actually being surrounded by nation states doing that, no. Money flows into Hezbollah and Hamas, by the way, funded by Netanyahu himself, funneling money to Hamas since 2012 through Qatar. That even happened in the weeks before October 7th. So yeah, this is a genocide. Genocides don't happen overnight, despite what Lindsey Graham and Netanyahu would tell you. It happens over a duration of time, just like the German Holocaust. This is not something that you just do in a stroke of time, even when these people say otherwise.
Hamas, they would commit genocide in 30 seconds. They just can't. And that's the big difference, folks. To people in my party, I'm tired of this crap. Israel is our friend. They're the most reliable friend we have in the Mideast.
They certainly aren't. They're an albatross around our neck, as John Mearsheimer said. They shelve U.S. interests for the pursuit of greater Israel and inspire all our politicians to act in an Israel-first mentality. They're not a democracy. They're an apartheid state. It depends on which side of the walls you're born into, whether or not you have rights or not, whether you're blockaded or not, whether you can leave and enter or not, whether you have sufficient food or not, whether you have the same judicial rights or not, and the list goes on and on and on. Look, this is preposterous. This is the empire-building propaganda that we get from Zionists and neocons like Lindsey Graham.
They're a democracy, surrounded by people who would cut their throats if they could. This is not a hard choice if you're an American.
Yeah, meanwhile, they're cutting throats and they're dropping bombs on women and children, killing them in multitudes, starving them, reducing aid stations from 400 to 4. And we're just supposed to pretend that it's Hamas that's the problem. That's the ones committing the genocide in Israel. I'm sorry. That might have worked 20 years ago, but we have an independent media now, and people just can't look away from the atrocities anymore.
It's not a hard choice if you're a Christian. A word of warning. If America pulls the plug on Israel, God will pull the plug on us.
This is the Ted Cruz. You remember that interview with Tucker Carlson?
Yes.
School of thought. If we don't give Benjamin Netanyahu what he wants, we will incur the wrath of God. Israel.
Yeah, if you don't double down on the genocide in Gaza, you're going to incur the wrath of God. It's garbage. This is Christian Zionism. It's a plague. It's a toxic mentality that has no biblical support or foundation whatsoever.
Israel's not a democracy. It's a criminal apartheid state. But anyway, I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a democracy. It's an apartheid state. It is committing a genocide in Gaza. And the argument that it is a strategic asset to the United States is not a serious argument. It's an albatross around their neck. And Senator Graham can continue to make these arguments. But
so I wonder, I don't think Senator Graham is stupid at all. He must be appealing to what he thinks the voters in South Carolina, these are South Carolina Republicans, want to hear. Otherwise, there is absolutely no basis to make those statements. There's no basis in truth, in history, or in fact.
Well, first of all, he gets a huge amount of support from AIPAC, and he gets a huge amount of support in other forms from the Israel lobby. One of the reasons that he has such a prominent platform is because of his views on Israel. He's no fool, as you say. I fully understand that. I'm not sure that all his constituents or most of his constituents in South Carolina want to hear what he has to say about Israel. Given where public opinion in the United States is on Israel, I wouldn't be surprised if there are a lot of people in South Carolina who share our views on Israel.
Yeah, I got to agree with them on that. The shift is palpable. Even seeing how, especially people on the right, are talking about this now is totally different in the last month or two compared to the early months of this, with Marjorie Taylor Greene calling this, rightly, I think, a genocide, with Massey railing against it, with people like Alex Jones and Steve Bannon and Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens in opposition to the Israel First policy, the Israel First mentality, and the behavior of the Israeli government. You have seen a tangible shift on this, and I think that's for the better. You know, it is older conservatives generally, this is generally speaking, older boomer cons that do support Israel, you know, to limitless ends, so to speak. But even a lot of those people probably don't prioritize the issue of Israel above, you know, kitchen table issues or things happening domestically, immigration, taxes, the economy, etc. But that is true. Now, he said, I think he let the mask slip a little bit when he said something like, you know, Hamas wants to commit a genocide, but they can't. Well, yeah, that's because the U.S. just bankrolls whatever Israel wants to do in Gaza, whatever it wants to do in Lebanon, whatever it wants to do in Syria, whatever it wants to do in Libya, whatever it wants to do in Iran, regardless. The biggest attack Hamas ever made, I think, on Israel was on October 7th, and it killed about 1,000 to 1,200 people. Now, I'm going to just not even visit the topic of how many people that the IDF killed in that, because some of the hostages that were let go were whistleblowers that said, hey, the IDF used the Hannibal Directive and killed a lot of Israelis rather than allow them to be taken hostage by Hamas. But let's leave that off the table for now. That pales in comparison to the disproportionate genocidal response from Israel that has killed somewhere between 100,000 and 300,000 people. It's hard to even know. I tend to think that it's about 200 or so, maybe more, but we don't exactly know because there's 60 to 100,000 deaths, many of which are women and children. Those aren't Hamas members, by the way, Lindsey Graham. But also there's a lot of people missing, presumably the majority of which are dead. And right now you have a starvation campaign. We had Anthony Aguilar being a whistleblower talking to Tucker Carlson about that. And that is disastrous. And yes, this is not a strategic ally. This has been a blight upon the United States and our foreign policy. If you really are America first, we should withdraw all of our forces from the Middle East. We should withdraw all foreign bases from the Middle East, all aid to Israel. Israel is an albatross around the neck. You know, it is complicit people within the United States that are influenced by Israel and the Israel lobby going along with this. But it led to the overthrow of Gaddafi's government, of the Assad government. Now we have a former emir of al-Qaeda, the founder of al-Qaeda's affiliate in Syria, as the leader of Syria now. We had this fruitless war with Iran where we could have created a new JCPOA and inspections regime. But Netanyahu doesn't want that because that takes off the table the entire pretext he needs for a war versus Iran and regime change in Iran. And remember when Netanyahu got in front of our Congress in 2002 and said, I guarantee you that if you take out Saddam, positive reverberations will break out among the entire region. It was absurd. This is propaganda, war propaganda. A lot of the U.S., empire building schemes and terror wars are the result of Israel influence in our government. Not in Afghanistan, but virtually all other countries that the U.S. has overthrown or battled in that region since. I want more of a Monroe Doctrine. Keep to domestic affairs. Stay out of the fruitless empire building wars in other parts of the world. That is the best lesson that Jefferson and Washington ever gave us, in my mind, is that peace, commerce, and honest friendship with all nations and entangling alliances with none should be the American creed. Not these crazy, senseless, disastrous, genocidal Israel first endeavors. And that's what we're locked into, unfortunately, right now. So I'm with Mearsheimer. I think he's exactly right. I think Lindsey Graham is losing this argument with the populace at large. There's no biblical mandate to support the modern state of Israel, which is not the Israel of old. And the passage that Ted Cruz cited doesn't even say Israel. It was a promise between God and Abram before there was Israel, or even the conception of Israel in the ancient context. The modern Israel was built by globalists in the UN, mostly with British and American backing, in 1947 as part of a grand land redistribution scam in which Palestinians were kicked out of their property to expand Zionist influence and create a modern Israeli state there. There's no mandate to support globalist created modern ethno-states, and that's what Israel's turned into. It's an apartheid state. Mearsheimer's right. But I do want to hear from you on this. Let me know down below. Do you agree with John Mearsheimer on this? Is Israel an albatross around our neck? Is there any merit to anything that Lindsey Graham said down there? Let me know in the comments below. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Also subscribe to Judge Napolitano. He's great. Mearsheimer's a genius too. And please consider becoming a YouTube member. If you click the join button below, you can help support the channel, and in return, I'll give you access to all my videos before they go live on YouTube to the general public. And until I see you guys next time, no more war, no more debt, no more inflation, and no more empire. Peace out, guys. Catch you in the next one.